Hello again. California lawmakers have given the green light to a bill that would force companies to have at least one board member from a minority background by the end of next year. The state says the move will help to overcome racial disparity.
People of color must have a seat at the table, especially in a state as diverse as California.
It builds on an earlier law which stated that company boards should include at least one woman. That will now rise to 3 for most larger firms by the end of next year. And to reiterate, also by the close of 2021, one person from a minority community must have a seat at the table, and 3 a year after that. If signed off by the governor, the law will be the first of its kind in the US for corporations. Well, happy to say we're joined live now by political activist Anthony Rogers-Wright and Anthony Brian Logan, who's a blogger on political and social issues. Good to see you both. Anthony Rogers-Wright, can we kick off with you? The ins and outs of this bill, they still appear a tad ambiguous in places, but could we now start to see race and gender officially becoming more important than professional attributes?
I don't believe that's the case. I mean, I will say first and foremost, it is of course very sad that we needed government intervention for more diversity on these corporate boards. The bottom line is that there have always been qualified people of color and qualified women who just don't have the access to these corporations, and it's just important that we do. And it's also beneficial to these corporations for their bottom line when they have people on their boards who are representative of their consumers. That's better for their bottom line, and we've seen that as expressed in Forbes magazine and Bloomberg magazine as well. So I don't think that this is going to lead to unqualified people being in positions of power where they shouldn't be. I think it's going to lead to more diversity of qualified people who have previously not been given access to these types of opportunities.
Anthony Brian Logan, you know, study after study does show that the vast majority of chief executives in the US, the big high-paying jobs, the people are white. Is such a bill actually needed to perhaps kickstart a more diverse representation at the top of the pyramid? Is this, you know, it mightn't be perfect in places, but at least it's a discussion?
Nah, I don't think so. It's affirmative action, just a little bit more specific. Okay, you got to have 3 women, and then you got to have 3 minorities. You're just going to have 3 minority women. That'd be the end result. And if it actually helped the bottom line of these companies, they already do it. Okay. You have an actual legal obligation making company money. You can't actually not perform well as a CEO, executive, or whatever. You have to perform well. So if it worked, if made the bottom line get more money, then they would do it. There will be no need for the government to force these companies to do it. They would do it because at the end of the day, they're trying to make money. That's the most important part. You're going to hire the most qualified people to fit on the board. That's how it goes.
Anthony Rogers-Wright, surely the issues of education, social mobility, would they not be more effective in actually just, you know, putting down the law and saying, this is this, we need people from the gay community, we need people of color here, here, and here, and effectively telling corporations, this is what we're going to do, whether you like it or not. But those other issues are much more important.
Yeah, no, I understand where Anthony is coming from. I mean, however, we have seen too many times corporations going bankrupt and those CEOs still walking away with big bonuses. Just last week, for instance, we learned that ExxonMobil, 4 or 5 years ago, the most lucrative company in the world, has now been kicked out of the Dow. And as a result of that, we have not seen any kind of accountability for those CEOs. So I don't agree with that. Unfortunately, the history of the United States. Well, unfortunately, if I can finish my point, the history of the United States calls for legislation and laws like this, whether it was the 13th Amendment. Slave owners were not going to let slave owners go free because of the goodness of their hearts. Women's suffrage, the ability for women to vote, was not going to happen because white men were looking into the goodness of their heart. And even affirmative action, as Mr. Anthony just referenced, actually benefited white women more than people of color. So clearly, I do believe that rather than laws changing attitudes change laws. But sometimes we need those laws to kickstart the attitude shift that needs to happen to make this country more equitable and inclusive for all people.
Yeah, I really don't understand how Exxon not being in the Dow anymore has anything to do with a black woman being hired at Exxon to be on the board. I don't really see how that makes any sense. I mean, at the end of the day, some companies do well, some companies don't do well. You may have a thing going on with the virus that could affect the global market as far as oil, and the company could decline as a result. Hiring a specific person because of their identity wouldn't have changed the global pandemic. That's not how it works. At the end, like I said from the very beginning, all that matters is having the most qualified people on the board in the company to have your company get the best chance to succeed. Okay, if it fails, then it fails. But having the government intervene and say, hey, you got to hire that person, and that person won't change it. Actually, that's called communism. And we've seen that tried and failed and failed.
That is not communism, sir. Sir, that is not communism.
I can't tell.
And if we're going to speak to the people, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest about what those precepts are. Now, unfortunately, what Anthony is doing is conflating anyone, like they're going to go into the street and just pick any person of color off the street to be on a board.
Why not?
We're talking about qualified people. We know for a fact in this country. We know for a fact in this country. That people of color, specifically, excuse me, if I can finish my point, African American women, Latina women, and indigenous women who have master's degrees are still making less money than white men with high school diplomas. So this idea that we're just going to pick unqualified people out of the street and then put them on boards makes no sense. And if he really had concerns about that, he would be very concerned about the fact that this unqualified president of the United States, Donald Trump, who bankruptcy after bankruptcy after bankruptcy, still believes that he can be the CEO of the United States of America. And we hear no problems from conservatives about that. So what I would like is just if you could be consistent with your paradigms instead of being
we hired him.
Okay, Anthony Bryan, just to put that point to you about women, Bloomberg says that the share of women directors in California increased swiftly since the law change in 2018. So maybe there is some merit to it.
Well, I mean, it changed because they were forced to change. It was a requirement. Yes, they had to do it because of the law. It wasn't like, okay, we just want to do this. Like I was saying from the beginning, if they want to hire people, they're going to hire them. When the government comes in and demands that they hire them, then they're going to do it because of the government regulation. This is why California and New York and other places are starting to lose population, because people don't like the regulation. It's overbearing. Taxes are too much. It's too much government intervention. And at a certain point, where did we draw a line and say, okay, we have freedom, we have a republic, into a communist type state where the government tells you your daily life, how you got to run your business, how much taxes you got to spend, like 100% taxes, no control over your business. At what point do we have freedom anymore in the country?
Anthony, Roger's right. Is there an issue?
I mean, just to your point, sir.
But just add on to this as well. Is there an issue that straight white men are being discriminated against now officially in law, and this is going to be a bigger issue going into this decade?
Great question.
Yeah, I just reject the whole notion that white men are being discriminated against. This entire country was made for the benefit of white men primarily, and that's just writ large. Whether we go from democratic policies like the New Deal, the biggest beneficiaries of that were white men. And this idea of being qualified, let's name three of the most lucrative businesses in the history of the United States of America. Apple, Microsoft, and Facebook, all founded by white men who didn't even finish college. So this idea that men are being discriminated against when they can still make more money with a high school diploma, with a high school diploma. Excuse me, if I could just finish my point. If I could just finish my point. If I could just finish my point, a high school diploma are still making more money than Black, brown, and indigenous women with master's degrees. So this idea that white men are being discriminated against, unfortunately, is a bootlicking paradigm by the Republicans and some of their black talking points, like Mr. Anthony is on right now. He knows very, very well that a white man can walk down the street, get pulled over by an officer, and not be worried about getting shot. So,
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, you're talking about Steve Jobs, Zuckerberg. These are self-starting men, self-motivated men, just like myself. Okay, I come from a poor environment, next to nothing, and now I'm very successful. Okay, because I started my own thing. I started my own business. Okay, we're in America. Everyone can do that. All right. There's no need to put me here or to put somebody else here to start
That's
your own business.
absolutely not true.
Okay.
That's absolutely
and
not true.
I have my own business. I want to be able to hire and fire whoever I want. I don't want the government telling me who I can and cannot have on my my squad.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap up here, but just some final points. I'm sorry, we're out of time here.
Specifically for being black.
Okay, Anthony.
And you cannot fire anyone for having a bad hair.
Anthony Rogers Wright, just give us your final sum up then, 20 seconds from each. Anthony Rogers Wright, kick off.
Yes. I mean, again, I would agree with Mr. Anthony that it's unfortunate that we need government intervention, but the bottom line is we do need government intervention to combat the fact that black household wealth is $17,000 a year and white household wealth is $177,000 a year on average. These are good, responsible policies, and if businesses want them to be dismantled, then do the right thing and understand that diversity is not just about numbers, but also about shared power.
Anthony, Brian Logan, Anthony, while you just sum up, can you also answer, if this is not going to be successful, what is, and do you think that things do need to change, or is the status quo as it stands all right in your eyes?
The best way to go about it is to have freedom in the country, not so much government regulation. The best way to go about this is to have less regulation, less red tape, less bureaucracy. That helps all of us grow, whether you want to be an employee or start your own business. Less red tape, less regulation. Let's bring back freedom in America.
Well, it's been a spirited debate, gentlemen. Thank you both for coming on the programme and sharing your views. We've been speaking to political activist Anthony Rogers Wright and blogger on political and social issues, Anthony Brian Logan. Thanks both.
Thank you.